So good, so good, so good.
Great gifts for mom? We've got them. And they're up to 60% off at Nordstrom Rack stores now.
You know they have Marc Jacobs?
Gotta show mom some love.
That is so good.
Snag amazing deals on Mother's Day gifts from Barefoot Dreams, Kate Spade New York, and more. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Be careful with that, Rabbi.
I represent the People's Republic of Brooklyn.
Yes, you do.
That's it.
All right, we can do 20 minutes, Mr. DA.
Yes, sir.
We're going to
Okay, fantastic.
obviously talk about what happened at Ocean Parkway tragedy.
Discovery. We got to talk discovery.
Discovery, reduction of gun violence, things that you've discussed many times.
Okay.
All right.
And when we get a chance, we'll talk offline. I've got to update you on something, Eric. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
plea bargain. The Rev is copying a plea. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell Pastor Bernard I'll give him a call.
Pastor
Okay,
Bernard is on the
thank you.
call. All right. Okay. Can I be on that call like Signal, Rev? You know the.
Well, you know the deal already.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay. All right, we're ready. And Mr. DA, this is going to be aired Sunday morning.
Okay. So should I make believe today is Sunday?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
Reverend, we are honored to have someone whom we've come to admire, respect for his great work, and also being a very good person. I'm talking about the District Attorney of Kings County, the Honorable Eric Gonzalez. And he's the first Latino District Attorney in New York. Grew up in East New York, then Williamsburg, went to Cornell undergraduate, went to University of Michigan Law School. Obviously couldn't get into Brooklyn where I went to that law school, so I had to settle for Michigan. But just
You don't waste time.
a very, very special person. D.A. Gonzalez, thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. And
Good morning.
full disclosure, we've come to know you many years. Since I knew you before you became the DA, because you have a history in the DA's office, a very good history, I might add.
Yeah, I was a prosecutor for 19 years before I ran for office.
Wow. All right. A tragic situation. I think people around the country have heard of it as well, and that's where a mother and two children were killed by a reckless driver, a young son, 4 years old, clinging for life at the hospital. Talk about that. I know there are limitations of what you can discuss, but talk about that case with us.
Yes, I mean, I've served in the prosecutor's office here in Brooklyn for more than 25 years. This has to be among the worst collisions that I've seen in that 25-year history. What we know was that a mother was walking with her 3 children, 2 young girls, and a 4-year-old boy, crossing the street, following the rules of the road, the allegations are very clear. We have a driver with a long history of violations, both in terms of speed and in terms of not following the traffic signals, running red lights, as the evidence is shaping up, it appears that the driver was speeding, maybe going more than twice the legal speed limit, ran the red light, struck another car, and ran into and killed the mother, her 2 daughters, and really seriously injured the 4-year-old boy, life-altering type injuries. Those are the allegations. I've heard people call it a tragedy. I've heard people call it an accident. I think this was beyond that. If of the allegations proved to be true, double the speed, running the red light at that time of day in a heavily residential neighborhood. It's wanton, and we have to crack down on people who don't follow the speed and traffic signal laws in our city. We see too many of these horrific collisions.
A follow-up question on that. She had a suspended license.
That is an allegation that her license was suspended.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the case,
I always have to say the allegations, because until they're proven in the court of law.
So in a case, not necessarily this one, but a case where there's a suspended license, what recourse can you take? Can you take away a car? I mean, because here there seems to be, from what I've read, a number of violations on the record, but it led up to this beyond tragic event, as you say. Anything that can be done to prevent that person from getting into a car?
Yeah, there's a number of different proposals in Albany in terms of laws. Laws that would allow government to seize vehicles that have reached a certain number of tickets and they're not paid. There's laws that would put speed inhibitors in cars that have a history of speeding, and so if in the modern day cars, a lot of times it will tell you the car knows what the speed limit is, and the speed inhibitor would prevent the car from doing more than 5 miles more than the speed limit. So there are different proposals to try to help enforce, the law. Mm-hmm. I also think that we have to seriously consider, changes to the roadway. This is a busy roadway. And there are things we can do on our roadways to slow down traffic. Of course, some people talk about speed cameras. You could put the bump in the road. You can do other techniques to help slow traffic down. But when it comes to the allegations in this particular case, going double the speed limit and running a solid red light, it's hard, to say that any one thing could have prevented this from happening. This was really on, the driver who just simply ignored every possible rule of the road.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are those who question, Reverend Bernard here, D.A. Gonzalez, there are those who question why this woman is even on the road. Why is she driving? Do we have to change our system in terms of how often we allow a license to be suspended by someone before we allow them to be back on the road?
Yeah, it's a great question, Reverend Bernard. I think, though, it's compliance, right? There are people who are going to follow the law, and they know if their license is suspended, they would never dare get behind the wheel of a car because they know their license is suspended. And there are people who are going to flaunt the law and continue to drive regardless of whether or not they have the privilege to drive or not, whether their license is suspended or not. This is about paying attention to the law, and the question is, are there things we can do to help enforcement to make sure that there's more likelihood that people are going to follow the law? In this particular case, I need to say that much of the tickets that we're told that the driver had, and the allegations were not that she was ever caught driving, is that her vehicle was seen running a red light through a camera or speeding through a camera. And so some of the laws make it much more difficult to enforce against a person unless they're the ones who have been caught driving. And so if you get stopped by a state trooper on the highway for speeding and he tickets you, you get points on your license. If you get a speeding ticket from a camera, they don't know who's driving, so you don't get that point on your license. And so it's a lot harder to prove who was behind the wheel during a lot of these incidents. In this particular case, we know she was behind the wheel because her car was disabled on the scene and she was arrested on the scene.
The story
Her
is
car wasn't impounded. I'm sorry, Rabbi, but her car wasn't impounded at the scene. Is there a reason why she may have been treated a little leniently here, or was
We have her car. We have her
Oh, okay.
car.
So it was
Yeah,
impounded. All right.
yeah, we're trying to, as part of our investigation, we're going to try to rule out the kind of things that sometimes are defenses in the case. The brakes didn't work, the car accelerated on its own. So the police have the car and doing all of the testing necessary to show that the car was properly functioning. Sometimes in cars, we've seen cars that, especially some of the newer cars that have a lot more computers. We see cars that claim to accelerate on their own, or someone tries to hit the brakes and the brakes don't work. So we're doing all of the relevant testing to make sure her vehicle was performed properly, and the problem wasn't the car, but it was the driver. And that's again why I want to say we always are careful until all the evidence is out there before we make any presumptions. But presumptively, and the allegations are that the car was functioning correctly and she just was driving in the unlawful manner and in the fatal manner, quite frankly.
Yeah. There's been an outpouring of support from the community. I know the mother and the children, I think they went to the synagogue in the morning, and then they were later on taking a walk in the Ocean Parkway area.
Yes.
Just horrific.
Yes.
Beyond words, as you said earlier.
Yes, and I've been in communication with the surviving father and of the children, and I've been in contact with the deceased woman, her side of the family, not just her husband, but her family. This has been heartbreaking. They also have a surviving infant that was home with the father when this collision took place.
Wow. So
Yeah, you're going to move on, Rabbi, but I like what D.A. Gonzalez said, that driving is a privilege. Too often people think it's a right. They have a right to own a vehicle and have a license, but it's a privilege that requires responsibility. I just wanted to
it's a privilege
highlight
that the state can revoke if someone does not do it correctly.
Well,
Right.
I mean, let's hope that Albany, too many times we've seen tragedies and then, life continues without doing anything about the situation. So maybe this here will inspire people to say we can't allow this to happen again. We got to do everything we can to stop it.
And Rabbi, I just want to be clear, as district attorney, I'm not going to tolerate this type of reckless conduct on the roads, and we will do everything in our power to bring justice to the family and to hold her accountable. I want to be very clear that this is like I said, in my over 25 years of experience as a prosecutor, this is among the worst traffic fatalities that I've seen on a regular street in New York City. And so, know that I'm going to do everything in my power to support the family, but also to hold her accountable.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing, it's precision-crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision-crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
All right. Let's talk about something else. The crime rate, the gun shootings in Brooklyn have decreased. And that's happened, of course, on your watch. That's a very enviable statistic. How How did you do that? Shoplifting, I think, has also decreased, which means, Rev, you and I will be able, at some point in the future, get our toothpaste on our own without asking for assistance.
Yeah.
But that's really very, very remarkable. How is it possible?
Yeah, Brooklyn had a really safe year in 2024 in terms of gun violence. It was the lowest in the history of Brooklyn, and that's a real victory for neighborhoods that really deal with, a lot of the gun violence. Most of the gun violence in Brooklyn happens in about 5 or 6 precincts, and in those precincts we saw really double-digit declines in gun violence. But those aren't statistics to me, because those are human lives that have been saved, families that, don't have to go through the trauma and the suffering that, these murders bring to people. And they have played another important role, because what we see is a lot of this is related to gang violence and other shootings in our city. When one of these incidents take place, there's almost always retaliation, this sort of, retribution by the other side of the gang. And so we start to see, when we prevent these shootings from taking place, we start to see a peace dividend, right? Because not only are we saving that shooting, but we're saving the second shooting from happening. And often, we see a lot of innocent bystanders who get caught up in needless gunplay. They're just living their lives, and they get, they have to duck for cover, or they may get shot because 2 gangs are fighting against each other and shooting at each other. So this peace dividend is real, and we should be very proud of it. But as district attorney, I'll never be satisfied until that number is as close to 0 as possible. But we did for the very first time in the history of Brooklyn have the lowest number of shooting incidents and shooting victims in the history of the county since they started keeping records over 40 years ago.
DA, we've made it an intentional part of our service whenever on a Sunday to mention the work that you continue to do, freeing individuals who've been wrongly incarcerated. Your predecessor, Ken Thompson, who was a member of my congregation, did quite a work in that vein, and you continued with incredible results. Just talk a little bit about that to our audience, please.
Rev, it was a privilege to work for the late, great Ken Thompson, and he believed very much in this responsibility that prosecutors had to make sure that justice didn't end simply when there was a verdict in the courtroom and the judge sentenced the defendant, but that we had an obligation to go back and make sure that the system actually got it right. There's no secret that people have been wrongfully convicted, but often prosecutors said it was up to judges on appeal to figure that out. And in the Brooklyn DA's office, and we were really the first in the country to do this, we created a conviction review unit that has dedicated lawyers. There's about 10 lawyers that work each and every day on claims of actual innocence, that people say, I was convicted, but I'm actually innocent. And I've had the occasion on 40 times now to go to court and ask that someone's conviction be vacated because they had been wrongfully convicted. It's important to get these people out of prison because innocent people don't belong in prison. It's important also to acknowledge the community that we've gotten things wrong and publicly say that. So we issue reports to the community about how this wrongful conviction happened. We're the only DA's office in the country, as far as I know, that issues reports on every one of these cases to explain what the mistakes were in the legal system that led to someone's wrongful conviction. And I think when people ask about gun violence and other things, when people have more confidence in the prosecutor, when people have more confidence in the justice system, they're more likely to come forward as witnesses and participate in court proceedings. And I think during the time that I started as a DA in the 1990s to now, we see much more engagement. People will come in and testify. They believe that the Brooklyn DA's office doesn't simply care about convicting people, but they care about getting it right. And I think it's actually improved public safety, the fact that we've gone back and publicly announced when we've made mistakes. And I think it's a really fundamentally important thing. It's also something that it doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. You could be, a liberal Democrat or a conservative Republican. The values that people who are innocent shouldn't be in prison are pretty consistent, and people on both sides of the political aisle support this work, believe in this work, and even the NYPD, who people might have thought would be against this, have embraced it because they realize that mistakes, in fact, have been made, and the only way to move forward and not to continue to make those mistakes is by learning how the system got it wrong in the first place.
All right. We don't have that much time left. We'd like to, spend as much time as possible. Let's talk about discovery, because this has become a big issue now, and all the district attorneys of New York seem to agree. What's the problem? What's the issue? And what is your recommendation?
And if you can begin with explaining what the discovery laws are for our audience, we appreciate it.
I think the easiest way to understand what discovery is the exchange of information. When someone is arrested, they come to court and they want to know what the evidence is against them that the district attorney may have. And so there's a process by which the district attorney's office gets information from the police department. We turn it over to the defense attorney, who shares it with their client. And that is the process of discovery. It's not just in the criminal context. You have civil discovery. If you're suing someone and you want to get the records, there's a process. In 2019, the legislature had moved to reform the law because the law was considered to be way too restrictive and unfair to criminal defendants, because prosecutors did not have to give this information at that time until right before trial. And the idea was to make early and automatic exchange of this information happen in the beginning of the criminal process. But what we've learned over the last 5 years is that the law went too far, and it's caused a lot of automatic and technical dismissals because the information cannot be gathered, looked at, and turned over within the time frame the law allows. So all 62 DAs, and most importantly, the governor of New York, have said we need to go back and reconfigure the laws to make it something that is fair for everyone. When the law is not fair, it hurts victims of crime, because if their cases are getting dismissed on technical grounds, they don't get justice. And if they're a domestic violence victim, they lose their order of protection. What I would say is, it's ongoing conversations in Albany about fixing it. I believe it needs to be fixed. And if the governor's proposal does pass in the way she believes it needs to be fixed, New York State would still have the most expansive and the most transparent discovery laws in the United States. There's some fear on the other side that, if they change it, it'll go back to 2019 standards, which were too harsh on defendants. The governor has come up with a proposal that I believe has the right balance. It will allow prosecutors to better do their jobs, reduce technical dismissals, and still allow defendants to get early and automatic discovery on their cases and move forward. So I support it, and I hope to report back to you both in the near future that some reasonable changes in the law were done, because when these cases get dismissed, it hurts victims, but it hurts everyone, because there's no adjudication of the case. It's resolved only on technical grounds, but not in the interest of justice.
Why is there?
It also affects how, I was just going to say, it also affects how you prosecute the case, because if the defendants have all of the information and they essentially know from the very beginning the strategy that the prosecution is going to use, all right, they can get out in front of that. So doesn't it prohibit you from being effective in prosecuting a case?
Listen, Rev, I support 100% I support early disclosure of information. I don't think that's as much as the issue. The way they expanded the law, they have the prosecutor chasing down information that has nothing to do with the actual trial. I know that sounds bizarre, but they have us chasing down information that has nothing to do with the charges the defendants faced. It's anything related to the litigation, anything related to possible witnesses. So things that will never be allowed at the trial still has to be gathered and by the district attorney, and we have very strict timelines. We have 15 days to automatic discovery, another 30 days, and if we don't meet our deadlines by the time 30/30 comes up, which is speedy trial, the case is dismissed. What the governor has asked the legislature to do is to make sure that we reduce the number of cases that are dismissed on technical grounds, and I fully support that.
Why should this be such a hard push? Quick answer, because I'm getting all the signs here from our producer. Why should it be so difficult when you have all the DAs agreeing on this? What is the problem?
Well, I think the legislature, passed this law 5 years ago, and they think, it could still work the way they originally envisioned it. But right now it's not working, and we really need them to work with the governor and come up with a compromise so we can have it, a budget in the next day or two.
District Attorney Eric Gonzalez, thank you so much for being with us today, and always thank you for your willingness to discuss any issue related to your office, and thank you for being such a friend to us.
Thank you for having me on, and I look forward to telling you about a lot of the great work we're doing.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that work, and you make us proud. And it's wonderful when the community can say that they're proud of their DA, and that's the consensus concerning you, DA Gonzalez.
Yeah.
So thank you for being on the
And
program.
you have no file on the Rev, you told me?
Thank you, Reverend Bernard.
There's no file on him?
Watch that.
Right. You're not allowed to discuss that. All right.
No,
Thanks.
not on the air. Not on the air.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And stay tuned for more of the Rev and the Rabbi right here on Red Apple Radio Network.
All right. DA, you there? He's gone?
He's gone.
Yes, he's gone.
Okay.
He's gone.
Okay, so what I need you to do is the interview.
The opening?
We'll cut it. So you guys just basically we'll find a halfway point. Somebody just has to do a quick wrap here. We're talking with Brooklyn attorney, Brooklyn DA.
We'll be back.
We're talking back right after this.
Okay.
And then
Rabbi?
that, we're back.
Do your thing, Rabbi.
So whoever wants to start
All
can
right.
do that. We're rolling.
All right.
We're going to take a break now and come back with more conversation with District Attorney Eric Gonzalez of Kings County, Brooklyn. All right, now, so that segment is done.
Wait, no, you got to do one last segment. Say we're back with religion. With the Rev and the Rabbi is back with. We're speaking with District Attorney, Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All
Okay.
right.
Okay. That's what we missed. Okay. Come on. Rabbi.
Ready?
You're there in the studio. Go ahead.
Welcome back. We are speaking with District Attorney Eric Gonzalez of Kings County, Brooklyn. All right. What about a close for the program? We do that.
Now you can do either an open or a close. We just have those two.
Why don't we do a quick close because we got things to talk about in the opening, all right?
Mm-hmm.